Welcome to Primetime Analysis. I am Victor Onyango. Now, first of all, I want to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you, wherever you're watching us from, for the support that you continue giving our channel. Kindly, if you're joining us and you're new, please take a second to subscribe so that when we make such kind of videos, you get notified. And for those who are supporting us, we thank you for the support, and remember, we don't take the support for granted. Now, today has been a very busy day for the security personnel in the country and those in that department. And reports are emerging of high delegation meetings that have been conducted by the top security organs in the country on ways through which today's activities can be effectively investigated and addressed. If you read the tweet from Kithure Kindiki's Twitter handle, it is evident that top security organs are out to conduct serious investigations on those who are involved in planning, in executing, and in aiding the demonstrations that happened today. But one problem is here. The demonstrations that happened today were organic in that they touched different parts of the country. You cannot pinpoint it to Luo Nyanza. You cannot pinpoint it to Kibera. You cannot pinpoint it to Mombasa because they were all over and spontaneous. And this one has led to a serious crisis in the intelligence community. Because one thing that is emerging is that the government did not have full understanding of how these demonstrations were to be undertaken. First of all, they were led to believe that Raila Odinga was going to conduct a rally at Kamkunji, and then using the previous strategy, after Kamkunji, they go to city center. That did not come into fruition. Because if you listen to what Raila Odinga says, they had intelligence that security organs and goons were going to be deployed to beat up their supporters. And for that reason, they stopped it. So this is a challenge that has been seen in the intelligence community. Because first of all, they do not understand how Raila Odinga managed to pull off this kind of call together for everyone and all parts of the country, including areas that were not previously understood to participate in demonstrations. Now, if you understand security sector, the president is always briefed by the NIS and military intelligence. And therefore, the intelligence brief that he had regarding how demonstrations were going to be performed. And that is why you realize that when he had that meeting in Ruai, he said that he will not allow any more demonstration to take place. He understood and he was speaking from the intelligence that he was given from the NIS. And therefore, having seen failure in the previous intelligence that he received, he has now looked a notch higher and now focuses on the military intelligence. Because one thing, military intelligence is always very precise, and it is the topmost level of intelligence that any security agency must, or government security agencies always depend on to gauge on how to respond to specific issues happening across the country. And therefore, looking at how things were going on, because you remember, it is also emerging that the goons that facilitated distractions in today's demonstrations were sponsored from people allied to the Kenya Kwanza regime. First of all, if you look at the goons that were destroying items at Expressway, these are sponsored by people allied to the government. We also look at those who are in Kisii. Remember, there were those who are protesting, and then there are those who are chasing protesters. And They were chasing protesters and looking after them using arrows. And some people try to say that these are Chinkororo. They are a proscribed group that is always in that region. We also have some that were in Sondu, where you realize there is one person who was shown to have a mshale or an arrow hitting his back. These are militia groups that are allied to state and the people who are within the state, and they have been used to make violence on Kenyans who are undertaking peaceful demonstrations across the country. And that is why the military is now seriously on high alert. Because if they continue with the kind of protests and retaliation that they are looking at, it is evident that we are going to find ourselves in a situation like the 2007 situation. Because this is now turning not to be a protest, but now creating scenarios where people can also have tribal wars. Remember, there is that guy who was listed in this picture. You find that he is having some youths with some crude weapons. It is stated that he went, ferried them to Sondu, and then created a situation whereby these two communities, the Luos and the Kalenjins in that area, fight against each other. So this is kind of creating a tribal clash that was a recipe for disaster that we saw in 2007. And this is why the military team is highly alerted to find strategies and to advise government security agencies to find ways through which they can arrest these issues before they explode. Even in Kisii, the proscribed group where people work with crude and outdated weapons to fight against protesters. You remember that the day before, Joash Maangi, even in his Twitter handle, if you check, him and Don Bosco Gichana and also other allied leaders, they conducted a procession trying to say that they are advising Kenyans not to, or encouraging Kenyans not to engage in violent protests. And then the day after, when now protests are supposed to be undertaken, then there are those special or unique people who try to use arrows to shoot at people. And therefore, this is a serious security lapse that has happened under the watch of Kithure Kindiki. And for this reason, his security men are seriously under scrutiny. If you look at how the demonstrations proceeded, you will realize that there were many instances where protesters overpowered the police, and the police had to, and they had to take cover in many instances. If you look at that, you will note that there is need for government to respond as fast as possible. I want to tell you that if President William Ruto does not respond as fast as possible, there is a high likelihood that these things are going to get out of hand. And the military intelligence is recommending that the government acts fast and decisively. The way in which they are going to act, that is upon them. The manner in which they are going to act, that is upon them. But they must act fast and decisively. Remember, they must also weigh the actions they are going to take. Because if they go extreme, they might end up fanning this thing to become worse. And if they don't do anything, they might also allow Kenyans to group themselves and organize themselves and go against the regime. Therefore, I believe as it is indicated, we are going to see how the investigations by Kithure Kindiki and his team are going to come out, whether they are going to really prosecute those who participated in distractions, or they are going to clamp all this on the opposition members of parliament and leaders. Remember, they have most of their leaders online have tried to paint these demonstrations as a Raila Odinga thing. And one message that has come from the online community is that this demonstration is far much beyond Raila Amolo Odinga. And they are telling the government that do not belittle our dissatisfaction and our protests to an individual. We are protesting because of the failed promises that your regime has given us. So this is a serious issue here. And for me, if I look at how the situation is and how things are almost turning out to be, I believe the government needs to find a way. And if it even means suspending parts of the Finance Bill 2023, so be it, so that Kenyans can have something to make them cool down. Because without anything, and the manner in which the cost of living continues to rise day and night, William Ruto is going to find it hard leading Kenyans and working with Kenyans. Just as Mutai Ngunyi told him, December is reaching and that will be your 1.5 years done. By the time that will be done, you will realize that you still do not have a tangible project or anything that you can present to Kenyans saying that you have completed or done them. This will make Kenyans question your ability and your truthfulness in leading them and in giving them what they desire. So William Ruto, if he wants to be in the good books of Kenyans, must respond fast and quick and find a way of meeting Kenyans halfway. That is my analysis. Let's get talking down in the comment sections. And please remember to subscribe to our channel. Thank you and may God bless you.